bringing peace to this moment. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to understand and harmonize the frequency of peace to our existence. So first of all, let's understand what we truly are. Now, a lot of the time we can be imprisoned within the mind's vibrational density. Everything is frequency, and sometimes we are limited to the frequency of the mind. So we're effectively cast like a spell. We're casted in the mind's prison, and then all we can feel, all we can think is the mind's thoughts. Now, a lot of the time, the thoughts of our minds are extremely negative. They're extremely demonic to an extent. They're very dark and very dense frequency of thought. So if all we are in is a cage of dense thought, then sometimes all we can feel is the emotions and the frequency of those thoughts. And a lot of the time those thoughts are extremely heartbreaking. So what we do is we often suffer from the heart, and we feel a lot of existence of hurt from our hearts. And when we feel this emotional pain, a lot of the time we then run away from our pain, and we invest in stimulants which give us a sense of feeling, a sense of feeling, because we are always hurting. And this is when we go into all sorts of addictions. You can name so many different addictions. They're all filling a space within us to give us a sense of heightened emotion. However, a lot of these emotions are only very short lasting, and then we then come back to the hurt, and then we run away again, and then experience another heightened stimuli which we choose to use, which is going into any kind of stimulant which exists. So one thing that we need to understand is when we're trying to bring peace to our lives, or trying to harmonize our existence to peace, first of all, at the root of every trigger within us, which is the mind's ability to send us a thought which we then refer to or identify with. Now, the trick is that if the mind will always try and penetrate our awareness, simply put, we as existence itself is only awareness. We are awareness which is given choice. We may have a physical body and we may have a human mind. However, at the root of all truth, we are awareness which is given choice. Awareness, which is the ability to perceive information. At least we are perceiving this reality, and we are coding this reality to be the existence which we are taking form of. So when our mind gives us something, we are choosing to believe it. And a lot of the time, the way that we hurt is that we believe the thoughts are true. We believe that the mind's thoughts are true. Now, to go a little bit deep on this, is that only truth, the truth of which we are perceiving, or the truth which we feel to be true, is always neglected to an extent. And when we start to realize that the truth which we are perceiving is always neglected to an extent, that's the point where we can take ownership of our existence. Because if you can take a moment to understand that if we're neglecting truth, say something is truthful, say something that the mind uses to infiltrate a sense of a distortion to our potential happiness. So for example, if the mind is saying, oh, you're ugly, and then we believe it to be true, well, then stop and take a moment to think, well, if the truth is always distorted to some extent, then what is the real truth? For example, if we believe that we're ugly, or we believe that there's something wrong with us, there may be something wrong with us, and there may be ugly is the perception of self-identity. So if we identify as ugly, then that truth is then categorized from our own self-belief. If we believe, regardless of how we look or how we appear to be, if we look and see beauty, if we look through the eyes of beauty, and then the mind says, oh, you're ugly, we can stop the thought immediately, and we can say, you can think whatever you want. And this is the power we have to have, is we have to rebel against the thought of the mind. We have to say, you can think whatever you want. Form a relationship with the thought. If we are only believing that the thought belongs to us, and then when we call ourselves ugly, or we call ourselves useless, we call ourselves, failures, if there is no, you could say, backlash, and say, think whatever you want, we have to form a relationship with these thoughts. Otherwise, the relationship is only dictated as the dominant and the weak, and we will perceive ourselves as weak existence because we don't have the power to fight back against the thought. Now, to go back and look at all truth is neglected to some extent. When we look at truth itself, especially what we perceive to be true, just take a moment and look and diagnose the true reality of the truth. Because truth itself is a vibration. And vibration can be neglected. And that's where we come from. All truth has the potential to be neglected, or all truth can be neglected, is because vibration or truth has its own effect on each and every single individual. So for something to be truthful for someone may not be truthful for someone else. And this is where the manipulation can take place within the mind. And the paradigm is that if we feel that someone has beauty and we don't, or someone else is beautiful and we don't, well, the truth is very much being neglected in our own eyes. It's just very, very important to understand, whenever the mind is trying to interact with us, is to question what is being neglected in that present moment. Because the true power, or being an alchemist, is being able to take something and turn it into love. So we can always take the thought of the mind, which the mind is giving us, or the mind is trying to, the mind is giving us thought. We can always take the thought and see what the mind is doing, because generally the mind is trying to manipulate our emotions to promote a sense of distortion to our own potential, our own happiest potential. It's trying to create a thought which is going to create a disharmony within our emotions, which then will promote a sense of distortion to our happiness, to our contentment. And when we start to feel this distortion, or feel this emotional discharge, which is oftentimes frustration, anger, sadness, and we are promoting these emotions, before we promote these emotions, or when our minds start to create this feeling of dissatisfaction, because we can feel it, our minds will give us something to think about, and then we will produce a sense of feeling of just something starts to not feel right. And it's what it is it's the heart rebelling against the mind, because the heart doesn't like sadness. And that's why when the heart starts to feel this sadness, is that the heart is actually trying to tell us something. But that's a whole different video. And what we can do is just question, take a moment when we are feeling the sadness, or we're about to feel the sadness, or feel the upset emotions, just take a moment and ask ourselves, how truthful is the information being used to manipulate our emotions? Because when we actually understand that all truth can be deceived, then we can find the alchemy within the truth. And the truth may be is that, okay, maybe I'm not the most beautiful person in the world, but at least I can show myself the love which I deserve. And that can be enough truth to outweigh the truth of the disharmony of our emotions, which what's trying to be caused. Is I can say, okay, maybe I'm not, when our minds say like, oh, we're stupid, we can say, okay, maybe I'm not the smartest person in the world, but at least I'm grateful to have a choice not to hurt myself by calling myself dumb. And this can go further. Okay, maybe I'm not, when we're playing sports, maybe we're not good at something, or when we try something and we don't succeed in something, we can say, okay, the truth is saying, okay, you're useless or you can't do this. There is some truth to it. And this is where the mind tries to neglect our greater self to accept ourselves, is because it's trying to shoot us down straight away, and it doesn't want us to get up. And when I talk about it, I'm talking about the frequency which is trying to suck our goodness out of ourselves, suck the energy, because when we hurt, the energy is going somewhere. It goes to a place. This is a whole nother video as well. But the truth is when we are getting shot down, to heal the wound and say, you know what, yeah, you can shoot me, yeah? Okay, shoot me, right? It's all true. But you know what else is true? That we all have the potential to take that bullet and realize that bullet won't shoot me down. And this is where it comes into. If we're not good at sports, or somebody makes fun of us for doing something wrong, it's at least there needs to be the automatic acceptance and that love that comes back and says, that's okay, like at least I'm giving it a shot. And this is what we're talking about here, is the quantum balance of life itself. We can't just get shot down in life and then just lay down, especially when it comes to the mind and the thoughts of the mind. We need to be able to take the truth which the mind is giving us. Okay, maybe we're not the best at something, but maybe it's our first time. Maybe it's our first time trying something, and we need to rebel against the truth and then shoot truth back. So we're taking both forms of truth and then we're meeting in the middle, and that itself is creating the peace. Because there's always going to be the two forces. There's always going to be two sides of the truth, because we're living in a universe which is designed for everyone to have their own opinion, everyone to have their own perception. And the truth is that all the perceptions ends up meeting together and aligning to the God self. And that's why we need to have two sides of the picture. We need to have the good, the evil. We need to have the happiness, the sadness, because it generates truth. And when we have the truth and we have two sides of the truth, okay, yeah, maybe, the mind can say what it wants, but also my heart is going to come right back at you. And it's like, okay, you're going to shoot me down. And this is why we can't just listen to the mind. We need to have the emotional protection of the heart to protect against all the mind's energetic penetration, because the mind effectively attacks the heart, and then the heart goes into like shelter, and then just like goes dormant, and then just literally hides. A lot of people in this day and age, they're living with a broken heart. They're living with a suppressed heart. They're living with a heart which is dormant, which is deactivated, and it's still beating, but the frequency within the heart is locked away, because the mind and the forces that manipulate our minds know that when the heart activates, that the forces become irrevertible. The forces cannot penetrate the auric field once the heart is activated. They struggle. They have to get very, very sophisticated and very, very manipulative to try and deactivate the field, the auric field of what a human being can admit once the heart is activated. Because once the heart is activated, we start to excrete a certain frequency, which it becomes very, very, very difficult to manipulate this frequency because it just knows better. And that's what I'm talking about. We can start to get to a point where even the most sensitive topics, the most sensitive, the most sensitive topics which can affect us, that, a lot of the time the mind doesn't even need to be very, very strategic. The mind can just, if a weak person, the mind can just give somebody anything and just say, you're useless. And then somebody will believe that they're useless and then just, feel awful. But the people who actually have an activated sense of love, or more so a connecting and generating a lot of love, the mind has to be very, very nitpicky about how they infiltrate that person's awareness. Because if you tell someone they're useless, that's generating a high frequency of existence, they'll just rebel against that and say, I'm not useless. I'm amazing. I'm a human being. I'm having this experience. I have a lot of love. I have a lot of passion. I have a lot of generosity. I'm not useless. So then the mind, or the frequencies behind the mind, or that are connecting to the mind, have to be very, very strategic about how they try and manipulate someone to make them feel bad. And that is why it doesn't matter how the mind makes us feel bad, is that once we start to just take the truth, because there's always going to be truth that the mind is, or the frequency behind the mind is trying to pick at us, is take the truth and say, you know what, fair enough. Well done, you've got me. But at the same time, I've got you. And that's the power, is once we come back and say, you know what, you got me, but I also have you, and we say that by saying, that's fine. I accept that. I accept that, and I'm grateful that life has given me the choice to accept that, and I'm going to move forward now and love that. And that is the essence of alchemy, is that we take the most, something that affects us deeply, we accept the root of it, we accept the truth of it, and we move forward within love and appreciation. And that is the essence of healing one's heart. Once we can do that and we can heal the heart, nothing can stop us, really, because we are moving forward within the name of love and the name of truth and the name of gratitude.